Ethan Harper glanced at the clock for what felt like the 100th time that morning. The little red digits glared back at him. 8:17 a.m. He cursed under his breath. Another late morning. His coffee, lukewarm already, sat forgotten on the kitchen counter. Across from him, his 8-year-old son, Jamie, munched on a synthetic oatmeal bar, his eyes glued to a small hollow screen, showing a cartoon about space explorers. "Dad, hurry up. You said we'd be at school in time for the assembly," Jamie said. Half excited, half frustrated, Ethan forced a smile. "I know, buddy. Just a few more minutes." A few more minutes had become a recurring theme for Ethan. Between his night shifts at the lab and the endless work on his side projects, mornings were always tight, and mornings with Jamie were never negotiable. He wanted to be there for every little moment he could. But the reality of life on Mars, Colony 12, had other ideas. By 8:25, Ethan had grabbed his coat and strapped Jamie into his hover sled, the small craft hovering just above the red dust of the colony's streets. The city was buzzing, but not with the kind of chaos Earth cities had. Here, everything moved with a precise hum of efficiency, regulated by the colony's AI systems and the human supervisors who monitored them. Hover cars zipped along designated lanes, robotic cleaners polished the glass domes of residential blocks, and drones carried supplies between buildings. It was a perfect, neat world, and one that didn't tolerate tardiness. Ethan's mind was split between traffic routes, Jamie's school schedule, and the reminder buzzing in the back of his mind: his job. He worked as a life support technician for Red Sky Corporation, the largest corporate employer on Mars. His role wasn't glamorous, but it was crucial. Life support systems failed, and people died. He had saved a dozen lives last year alone, during an oxygen leak in Sector 14. But here's the cruel part. In the eyes of his boss, dedication didn't matter if you were late. By 8:45, they reached the school dome. The assembly was starting. Jamie jumped off the sled with a cheerful wave, leaving Ethan to watch him disappear into the crowd of students. Ethan's chest tightened. He hated being late, but he also hated missing the little things that mattered to Jamie. After dropping Jamie off, Ethan headed toward Red Sky Tower, a sleek, chrome and glass structure that rose above the colony like a beacon of order. His heart sank as he approached the lobby. Security drones scanned his ID pass, and a small notification popped up on his visor. Meeting with HR and CEO at 9 a.m. That was fast. Too fast. His stomach twisted. He entered the office, greeted by polite nods from HR staff and a receptionist. The elevator ride up felt longer than usual. When the doors slid open on the 50th floor, there she was, Marla Vance, CEO of Red Sky. Marla was every bit the corporate titan everyone said she was. Tall, sharp-featured, eyes that seemed to pierce through layers of excuses, and a presence that made the room feel smaller than it was. "Ethan Harper," she began, her voice calm but authoritative. "You've been late again." Despite repeated warnings, Ethan swallowed. "Miss Vance, I'm aware, but—" "No buts," she interrupted. "Tardiness in a critical role like yours is unacceptable. We rely on you to maintain systems that people's lives depend on. There is no room for error or delay." Ethan's chest tightened. He had expected a warning, maybe a suspension, but not this. Are you firing me?" he asked, voice trembling slightly. Marla's eyes didn't waver. "Yes, effective immediately. HR will take you through the formalities." Ethan felt the world shrink. He had given everything to this job. Long nights, endless repairs, even staying after shifts without complaint. And yet, it all came down to a few minutes. He nodded, unable to argue further. HR guided him through the process, and soon he was walking out of the tower with nothing but a thin folder containing his clearance documents. The streets of Mars Colony 12 felt emptier than ever. Red dust swirled lazily around his boots, and the distant hum of hover vehicles seemed to mock him. People passed by, nodding politely, oblivious to the storm of emotions in Ethan's chest. He made his way home, trying to suppress the rising panic. Bills, rent, food, Jamie's needs, all of it now depended on finding something else. But deep down, he also felt something else. A strange flicker of relief. Now, at least, he could focus entirely on his secret project without worrying about schedules or reprimands. Ethan's lab was small, tucked into the lower levels of their residential block. To the outside world, it looked like a storage room, but inside, it was filled with holographic screens, small drones, and intricate devices humming softly. For months, Ethan had been working on an AI-driven terraforming prototype, a system that could accelerate oxygen generation on barren planets. It wasn't sanctioned by Red Sky, it wasn't even allowed under colony rules. But Ethan had a vision. A future where humanity could thrive beyond Mars. Where colonies wouldn't just survive, they'd flourish. He entered the lab and activated the main console. Screens lit up, casting a pale blue glow over the cramped space. A small drone hovered nearby, scanning readings from the latest experiment. Ethan took a deep breath. Here, he was in his element. No strict schedules. No judgmental bosses, just him, the machines, and a vision of the future. Hours passed as he worked. Each calculation, each adjustment, each test felt like a small rebellion against the rigidity of the colony's rules. Outside, the red sky of Mars shifted as night fell. But Ethan barely noticed. He was lost in possibilities. If the AI could optimize oxygen production efficiently, colonies could expand faster, farms could grow under domes, and life support shortages could become a thing of the past. Despite the solitude, he wasn't lonely. Every so often, Jamie would pop his head in, bringing snacks or asking questions about the glowing screens and whirring machines. Ethan explained patiently, showing him basic concepts of atmospheric engineering, AI algorithms, and the delicate balance needed for life. Jamie was fascinated, eyes wide with wonder. In these moments, Ethan realized something profound. He wasn't just building technology. He was shaping a world where his son, and millions like him, could thrive. By midnight, Ethan leaned back in his chair, exhausted but exhilarated. He watched a holographic projection of Mars, simulating how his AI could transform barren stretches into breathable landscapes. It was far from perfect, but it worked. A spark of hope lit in his chest, a feeling he hadn't allowed himself during his tense morning. And yet, there was a shadow of worry. Red Sky had resources, influence, and eyes everywhere. If his experiments were discovered, he could face serious trouble. He was on his own, walking a fine line between innovation and insubordination. But for the first time in years, he felt like he was exactly where he was meant to be. As he powered down the lab for the night, Ethan glanced at a small photo on the wall. Him and Jamie, smiling under the colony's dome during a rare celebration. He whispered softly, "We'll make it, buddy. We'll make it for you. For all of us." The red Martian dust swirled outside the window. Somewhere in the city, life went on. And somewhere else, a man who had been dismissed for tardiness quietly prepared to change the future, one small step at a time. The morning sun barely touched the dusty horizon of Mars Colony 12 when Ethan Harper stirred awake. He didn't need an alarm. His body had been trained for years to rise before the colony's main transport lines even started moving. The small room he rented was quiet, save for the soft hum of the life support unit keeping the thin air breathable. Outside, the colony began its day. A slow symphony of hovercars, drones, and distant machinery. But inside, Ethan's world existed on a different schedule. Jamie was already awake, sitting on the edge of his bed with a small tablet in hand. "Dad, I made breakfast," he announced, holding up a synthetic bread bar. His hair stuck up in every direction, a mop of golden curls catching the weak sunlight. Ethan smiled, exhaustion and pride mixed together. "Thanks, champ. Did you brush your teeth?" "Yes," Jamie said, grinning. "See?" He opened his mouth to reveal slightly crooked teeth, a small gap in the front. Ethan laughed, ruffling his son's hair. Life had been hard since his firing, but Ethan refused to let it show in front of Jamie. The boy had enough to worry about. school, friends, and the challenges of growing up on Mars. He didn't need his father's anxieties piled on top, so Ethan wore a calm mask, even when his mind spun with concerns about bills, rent, and the work he now did in secrecy. After breakfast, Ethan walked Jamie to school. The colony streets were already bustling. Robotic couriers glided past, carrying packages to waiting doors. Solar collectors shimmered atop dome buildings, reflecting light across the dusty ground. The air was thin but breathable, thanks to Red Sky Corporation's careful engineering and Ethan's own maintenance work in years past. Once Jamie was safely inside the school dome, Ethan slipped away, avoiding the main roads. He had learned long ago that visibility was risky. If the corporation discovered what he was working on, they could shut him down, or worse, confiscate his research. He preferred caution. Ethan's lab was hidden in the lower levels of a residential building. To the casual observer, it looked like a storage room filled with old equipment and boxes of personal belongings. Only a few trusted neighbors knew the truth. Behind the locked door, Ethan Harper was building a device that could change the future of human colonization. The lab was quiet, except for the soft hum of machines. Small drones hovered, scanning readings from chemical sensors and miniature atmospheric processors. Holographic screens floated in midair, displaying complex data streams of oxygen production rates, AI simulations, and Martian weather models. Ethan moved between stations with practiced ease, adjusting a lens here, tapping on a control pad there. His work was delicate. One small mistake could ruin weeks of calculations. But that didn't deter him. He had a vision. A system that could generate breathable air in uninhabitable zones without relying on large, expensive infrastructure. A tool that could expand human settlements beyond the carefully managed domes. Hours passed like minutes. Ethan barely noticed the red sunlight fading into Martian twilight. He was lost in his world of equations, AI codes, and drones. Occasionally, he would glance at a small photo of Jamie taped to a screen, reminding him of why he worked so tirelessly. A beep interrupted his concentration. One of the sensors had detected a slight imbalance in oxygen generation. Ethan frowned and tapped the console, pulling up detailed logs. The AI had miscalculated the output for a microreactor he had just modified. "Not bad for you, little buddy," he muttered, speaking to the AI as if it could understand. "But we can do better. We will do better." Hours later, Jamie arrived at the lab, having slipped away from school under the supervision of a caring teacher who knew Ethan's situation. The boy's eyes widened at the glowing displays. "Wow, did you make all this?" he asked, pointing at a hovering drone scanning the air. Ethan smiled, brushing dust from his hands. "Yeah, kiddo. This is how we make Mars a better place. One little step at a time." Jamie climbed onto a stool and peered into one of the simulation screens. "Can it make the whole planet like Earth?" Ethan chuckled softly. "Not yet. But someday. Maybe." It was moments like these that reminded Ethan why he couldn't give up. The world outside Red Sky Tower might have judged him by his punctuality. But here, in the lab, every calculation mattered. Every small success brought him closer to a better future. As night deepened, the lab grew colder. Ethan adjusted the life support settings, careful to maintain stable air pressure and temperature. He activated a small generator to provide extra power for the AI systems. The room glowed softly, a testament to human ingenuity and perseverance. Ethan often thought about Red Sky's corporate meetings, where he had sat under Marla Vance's watchful eyes. There, innovation was measured by quarterly profits and strict protocols. But here, in this hidden lab, innovation was measured by potential, the potential to save lives, to expand humanity's reach, to leave a legacy beyond any spreadsheet. He remembered the dismissal vividly. The cold words, the lack of understanding, the way efficiency had been valued over dedication. At the time, it had stung deeply. But now, sitting amid his machines and calculations, he felt a quiet satisfaction. Sometimes, the world outside didn't understand the full value of human effort, but that didn't make it any less powerful. Around midnight, Ethan took a break, stepping outside the lab's small airlock to gaze at Mars. The colony lights twinkled below, like stars grounded on red soil. The domes and towers spread across the landscape reminded him that humans had already accomplished so much. And yet, there was still so much to do. He thought about the challenges ahead. The AI systems needed refinement, the prototypes needed testing, and his research had to remain hidden until it was ready. But he also thought about Jamie, about the future he wanted for his son, about the generations that might one day walk freely on Mars or beyond. That thought fueled him more than any ambition ever could. Suddenly, a soft vibration from the floor alerted him. One of the drones had detected something unusual in the simulation. An unexpected chemical reaction. Ethan hurried over. Examining the data, the AI had produced an optimized output, far better than any manual calculation. He allowed himself a small smile. This could work, he whispered, excitement threading through his voice. It could actually work. Hours passed again as Ethan refined the models. Jamie eventually fell asleep on a small cot in the corner, the glow from the holographic screens casting soft shadows over his sleeping form. Ethan paused, watching him for a moment, and felt a warmth that no amount of success or recognition from Red Sky could match. The night wore on. Ethan finally leaned back, exhausted but exhilarated. Every miscalculation, every adjustment, every test had brought him one step closer to something bigger than himself. He shut down the main AI interface, dimmed the lab lights, and whispered, "One day, Jamie, we'll make this world bigger, better, and safer." One day, outside, Mars stretched in quiet splendor. The red dust shimmered faintly under the colony's artificial lighting, and somewhere far away, the wind whispered across barren plains. Inside the hidden lab, a single man worked tirelessly, unseen and unappreciated by the powers above, yet holding the key to humanity's next great leap. And for the first time since his dismissal, Ethan Harper felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. Ethan Harper's life had settled into a careful rhythm. Days were spent managing Jamie, running errands, and attending school events. Nights were devoted to his secret lab, where he tinkered with AI-driven terraforming devices. It was exhausting, but Ethan didn't mind. Every success, no matter how small, reinforced his belief that he was doing something meaningful, something bigger than himself. What Ethan did not know was that Red Sky Corporation had already started noticing unusual activity in the outer sectors of the colony. It began subtly data anomalies, small fluctuations in air pressure, unexpected increases in oxygen efficiency. At first, the AI monitoring systems flagged these as technical errors. But as reports accumulated, Marla Vance, the CEO, could not ignore them. Marla was known for her precision. Her life was structured around metrics, schedules, and measurable results. And the results coming from the peripheral colonies were extraordinary. Oxygen levels were stabilizing faster than expected, plants in test domes were thriving beyond projections, and automated monitoring suggested efficiency improvements that her top engineers had not yet explained. Intrigued, she called an emergency briefing with her top scientists and engineers. Holoscreens filled the room with streams of data. Marla's eyes scanned the numbers, noting the small but significant differences in chemical readings, air composition, and energy efficiency. "Something is affecting the outer sectors," Marla said calmly but firmly. "And it's not our systems. Our engineers report no recent upgrades in those areas. We need answers." One of her lead engineers, a tall man named Dorian Shaw, tapped on a holopad. "Ma'am, our sensors indicate that the changes are localized to certain unregistered devices. They are small, portable, and seem to be using adaptive AI to optimize oxygen distribution." Marla raised an eyebrow. "Portable? Unregistered? That suggests human intervention. Someone is working outside Red Sky protocols." The room fell silent. Red Sky had strict rules about unauthorized technology, especially anything affecting life support systems. Human error or negligence could have catastrophic consequences. Meanwhile, Ethan was oblivious to the storm brewing above him. That night, he was hunched over a glowing interface, adjusting a sequence of simulations. A small drone hovered nearby, scanning output levels. Ethan's fingers flew across controls as he tweaked parameters. Better. Better. Perfect, he muttered, eyes lighting up as the AI system produced an optimized output he hadn't expected. For the first time, the simulated Martian atmosphere was stable for a large habitat dome. Not just a test unit. Ethan paused, rubbing his eyes. The work was exhausting, but the result filled him with pride. He leaned back, watching the holographic simulation expand across the room. In his mind, he imagined a sprawling colony, domes dotting the red landscape, powered by systems he had designed and perfected. A small smile crept across his face. Little did he know, the results of his work were already making waves far beyond his lab. Back at Red Sky Tower, Marla and her team worked late into the night, analyzing data streams from sensors and drones across the colony. A new pattern was emerging. The areas with increased oxygen levels corresponded to a small residential sector, one that had no officially registered technicians working there. Cross-reference personnel logs, Marla ordered. We need to find who is operating these devices. I want names. The engineers nodded and began sifting through security footage, ID logs, and drone scans. It was tedious work, but within a few hours, a single name surfaced repeatedly. Ethan Harper. Marla's expression hardened. She remembered him well, the technician she had dismissed for tardiness. And now, this man was producing results that even her best teams hadn't achieved. The realization struck her in a way she hadn't anticipated. Bring me everything on him, she said, her voice low. I want to see the full scope of what he's doing. Meanwhile, Ethan's evening had taken a quieter turn. Jamie was asleep on a small cot in the corner of the lab, dreaming of school adventures. Ethan walked to the small kitchenette and poured himself a cup of synthetic coffee. He leaned against the counter, staring out at the red Martian sky through a small viewport. He thought about the risks he was taking. If Red Sky discovered his work, he could lose everything or worse. But he also thought about what he had achieved so far. The AI-driven terraforming system was working beyond his expectations. Small tests had been successful. If scaled up, the system could revolutionize human colonization on Mars and beyond. A soft ping drew his attention back to the console. A new simulation had completed. Ethan leaned over, scanning the data. Oxygen levels were stabilizing faster than he had calculated. Energy consumption was minimal, and plant growth projections had surpassed expectations. Jamie, you're going to see this someday, Ethan whispered, imagining his son running across a flourishing Martian colony. We're doing something important. Something worth every late night. But the quiet was broken by an unexpected sound, a subtle vibration near the entrance of the lab. Ethan froze. Red Sky had eyes everywhere. Could it be a security drone? Or worse, inspectors? His heart pounded. He quickly dimmed the lights and initiated a security protocol. Isolating the main systems, a soft knock came from the door. Ethan's pulse quickened. He cautiously approached and peered through the small viewport. A figure stood outside, not a corporate inspector, but Dorian Shaw, one of Marla's engineers. Mr. Harper, Dorian said, voice calm but firm. You need to come with us. Ethan's mind raced. He hadn't expected anyone to find him so soon. But there was no panic in Dorian's expression. Only professional curiosity. Inside Red Sky Tower, Ethan faced Marla once again. The boardroom looked much the same as the day he had been fired. But the atmosphere was different. Instead of cold judgment, there was astonishment. Marla motioned for him to sit. You've been working on something extraordinary, she said quietly. Your devices, your AI, it's producing results beyond anything our top engineers have achieved. Explain. Ethan swallowed hard. He hesitated, then began to explain his project. The secret AI system, the terraforming prototypes, the oxygen stabilization techniques. He spoke with passion, carefully avoiding technical jargon, focusing instead on the vision, a future where human colonies could thrive anywhere. Marla listened, her eyes narrowing at times, softening at others. She had built her career on results, on metrics, on efficiency, and yet, here was a man she had dismissed for being late, showing her that human creativity and perseverance could surpass even the most structured systems. Hours passed as Ethan demonstrated simulations, explained tests, and answered questions. Marla asked about his calculations, his AI logic, and his safety measures. Ethan was honest. He admitted flaws, small errors, and uncertainties. He did not exaggerate, but he conveyed confidence in the potential of his work. Finally, Marla leaned back in her chair. She exhaled slowly, a rare moment of reflection. You've done something incredible. I underestimated you, Ethan. More importantly, I underestimated the value of human determination and ingenuity. You're not just a technician, you're a visionary. Ethan blinked, stunned. Praise from Marla Vance was unexpected. More than anything, he felt relief. The late nights, the secrecy, the sacrifices, they had all been worth it. Thank you, he said softly. I just want to make life better for everyone here. And for my son. That's all that matters. Marla nodded. And in doing so, you've shown something very important. Humanity itself is our greatest strength. Machines and rules are tools, but creativity, persistence, and care. That's what drives progress. Outside the window, Mars shimmered under the colony lights. The city below continued its routine, unaware of the discovery that had just taken place. But inside Red Sky Tower, a quiet revolution had begun. A recognition that sometimes, human hearts and minds could achieve what even the most powerful corporations could not. Ethan left the boardroom that night, not as a dismissed employee, but as someone who had proven the value of humanity in the face of strict rules and bureaucracy. He returned home, greeted by Jamie's sleepy smile, and felt a sense of peace. The path ahead was still challenging, but now he knew he was not alone, and that his work mattered not just to him, but to the future of humanity. As he lay in bed that night, staring at the Martian sky, Ethan whispered, "We're going to make a difference, Jamie, one step at a time." And for the first time in a long while, he truly believed it. Ethan Harper stepped out of the elevator on the 50th floor of Red Sky Tower, feeling a mix of anticipation and anxiety. The sterile walls and polished floors were familiar, but today, they felt different. He was no longer a dismissed employee facing judgment today. He had been invited to lead a collaborative project. Marla Vance waited in the boardroom, standing beside a large hollow screen displaying a Martian terrain map. Her posture was relaxed but authoritative, a careful balance of power and curiosity. When she saw Ethan enter, she gave a small nod. "Welcome back, Ethan," she said, her tone measured but respectful. "I want you to show me exactly how your system works. Not just the AI simulations, but the real-world applications." Ethan set up his portable interface on the conference table. He had brought along a small prototype of his terraforming AI unit, a device no bigger than a suitcase but filled with intricate sensors, micro-reactors, and miniature drones. As he activated it, the holographic terrain above the table lit up, simulating a barren Martian valley. "The system," Ethan began, "uses adaptive AI to monitor oxygen levels, temperature, and soil conditions. It can optimize plant growth and atmospheric conditions without human intervention. Once deployed, it can expand breathable zones across the colony." Marla watched the simulation carefully. The AI drones moved across the virtual terrain, releasing tiny doses of oxygen and simulating plant growth. Within minutes, the barren landscape transformed into a patchwork of green zones. "This is incredible," Marla admitted, her voice quiet with genuine astonishment. "Even our top teams haven't been able to simulate this level of efficiency." Ethan nodded. "I've been working on this in my lab for months, I wanted to test the concept before presenting it, but I didn't have corporate approval. I wasn't sure if anyone would understand the potential. Marla leaned back, her mind racing. She had been strict, rigid, and focused on schedules and efficiency. But here was a man she had once dismissed, who had achieved something revolutionary. She realized something profound. Human creativity and determination could surpass even the best systems and protocols. "We need to deploy this," she said firmly, "but safely. You'll lead the project, with our resources and oversight. You'll have a team, funding, and the authority to implement your system on a wider scale." Ethan's chest tightened with a mix of relief and pride. This was more than he had hoped for. "Thank you," he said quietly. "I won't let you down." The first weeks were a whirlwind. Ethan worked closely with a select team of engineers and scientists, all under Marla's careful supervision. He trained them on the AI systems, taught them the nuances of atmospheric optimization, and demonstrated the delicate balance needed to sustain life on Mars. Despite the corporate environment, Ethan maintained his unique approach. He encouraged experimentation, praised creative solutions, and reminded the team that failure was a step toward progress. Slowly, the engineers began to see that Ethan's methods, though unconventional, were incredibly effective. Outside the lab, the colony began to notice subtle changes. Small test zones in peripheral settlements showed improved air quality, healthier plant growth, and better energy efficiency. Residents commented on the improved conditions, unaware of the human ingenuity behind them. Ethan, however, was focused on the bigger picture. He worked late into the night, reviewing AI logs, adjusting algorithms, and preparing reports for Marla. But the work wasn't just about technology, it was about people. He thought constantly about Jamie, imagining the child running freely in lush Martian fields, breathing clean air, and exploring a thriving colony. That vision fueled every decision, every calculation. One evening, Marla visited the lab unannounced. She found Ethan hunched over a holographic interface, his face illuminated by soft blue light. Drones hovered nearby, scanning environmental simulations. "Ethan," she said softly, startling him. "You're here late again." He looked up, sheepish but smiling. "It's part of the process. The AI needs constant monitoring. And these simulations, they take time." Marla studied him for a moment. "You've changed my perspective. I used to think efficiency was everything. Rules, schedules, measurements, if you didn't follow them perfectly, you were expendable. But I see now, there's something machines can't measure: human dedication, creativity, and care. You're proof of that." Ethan felt a warmth in his chest. Praise from Marla Vance was rare. But this acknowledgement was different. It wasn't about productivity. It was about human values that no algorithm could replicate. "I've always believed that," Ethan said quietly. "Even if no one else sees it, humans can make a difference. We just need the chance." Flash. Marla nodded, her gaze softening. "And now, you have that chance. We're going to roll this system out across multiple settlements. You'll lead the deployment, oversee the AI units, and train new teams. If this works, it could transform life on Mars and beyond." The project moved forward quickly. Ethan and his team deployed AI terraforming units in several test zones. Sensors monitored oxygen levels, plant growth, and soil stability. The results were astonishing. Areas that had struggled to maintain basic life support levels flourished within weeks. Crops thrived, air quality improved, and energy consumption decreased. Residents began to notice changes, whispering about the mysterious improvements. Some guessed corporate innovation. Others believed in luck or natural phenomena. Ethan didn't mind. Recognition wasn't his goal. The well-being of the colony and the promise of a better future for humanity mattered more than praise. At home, Ethan remained devoted to Jamie. The boy noticed the difference too, often helping his father with small tasks in the lab. He learned about plants, oxygen levels, and the delicate balance required for life. Their bond strengthened as Ethan shared his vision, inspiring curiosity, creativity, and a love for science in his son. One night, Ethan stood outside the lab, gazing at Mars. The stars were faint through the colony's haze, but the red plains stretched endlessly, full of possibilities. He felt a quiet satisfaction, knowing his work was making a real difference. Marla's words echoed in his mind. Human dedication, creativity, and care were the keys to progress. It wasn't just machines, rules, or schedules that shaped the future. It was the people behind them. Ethan returned to the lab, adjusting AI parameters and reviewing logs. Each step, each calculation, each successful test reinforced a profound truth. Humanity, with all its imperfections, could achieve extraordinary things. And sometimes, it took someone willing to defy convention, to work quietly in the shadows, to remind the world of that potential. Weeks later, a colony-wide report confirmed the success. Oxygen levels were stable, energy efficiency had improved dramatically, and plant growth far exceeded expectations. The board of Red Sky Corporation held an emergency meeting to discuss next steps. Marla presented Ethan's work, highlighting both his technological achievements and his human approach to innovation. The board members were astonished. "He's not just a technician," one remarked. "He's a visionary." Marla smiled. "Exactly. And we need more visionaries like him." His work reminds us that humans are not just cogs in a machine. We are creators, thinkers, problem solvers. That is our strength. Ethan's name spread quietly throughout the colony. People whispered about the single dad who had been dismissed for tardiness, but was now leading a project that could change life on Mars forever. For Ethan, it wasn't about fame, it was about showing that human ingenuity, care, and perseverance mattered more than rigid rules. One evening, Ethan tucked Jamie into bed. The boy's eyes were bright with curiosity and pride. "Dad, are we really making Mars better?" Ethan smiled, brushing Jamie's hair back. "Yes, buddy. Every night, every small step we take brings us closer. One day, you'll see just how far humanity can go." Jamie grinned, hugging his father tightly. Ethan felt a warmth in his chest, knowing that his work wasn't just for the colony, it was for his son, for the future, for the people who believed in human potential. Outside, Mars stretched in quiet splendor, a world of red plains and endless possibilities. Inside, a single man had reminded the colony and himself that human values, creativity, and dedication were the true forces shaping the future. And for Ethan Harper, that realization was more powerful than any recognition, more meaningful than any reward, and more inspiring than anything he had ever imagined. The red dawn of Mars Colony 12 stretched across the horizon like a promise. Ethan Harper stood on the balcony of his small apartment, watching the soft glow of the colony's domes illuminate the dust-strewn landscape. It had been months since his project had officially begun under Red Sky Corporation's supervision. Yet every day still brought new challenges. But for the first time, Ethan felt a profound sense of purpose. The AI terraforming units he had designed were now operating across multiple sectors. Small green zones dotted previously barren areas, and life support systems were running more efficiently than anyone had imagined possible. Sensors confirmed stable oxygen levels, healthier crops, and cleaner air. People in the colony spoke in quiet amazement about how the environment seemed to thrive on its own, as if Mars itself was awakening. Ethan's mornings began as they always had, with Jamie tugging at his sleeve. "Dad, look! The plants outside our window are growing faster!" Jamie exclaimed, pointing to a small garden patch on their apartment terrace. Ethan smiled, kneeling beside his son. "That's right, buddy. Your help is paying off too. Every little thing we do counts." Jamie grinned, clearly proud of the work they had done together. It was moments like these that reminded Ethan why he had taken the risk to continue his research in secret. Human creativity, persistence, and care qualities that machines could not replicate were the true forces behind this transformation. By mid-morning, Ethan arrived at the main lab, where Red Sky engineers were busy coordinating deployment of additional AI units. The atmosphere was electric, with energy and collaboration. People moved quickly but deliberately, guided by Ethan's expertise. Unlike before, Ethan's leadership was no longer constrained by rigid protocols. Marla Vance had learned to trust his methods, valuing ingenuity over strict schedules. "Ethan," said Dorian Shaw, one of the lead engineers, "we've finished calibrating the new units for the outer sectors. Ready to deploy?" Ethan nodded. "Let's do it. Remember, each unit is autonomous, but monitor the outputs closely. Small adjustments can have big impacts." The deployment process was precise yet delicate. Drones carried the AI units to designated zones, where they activated and began scanning the environment. Data streamed back to Ethan's interface, displaying real-time measurements of oxygen concentration, soil enrichment, and energy efficiency. Every time the AI successfully optimized a new sector, Ethan's heart lifted. "These results? They're even better than the simulations," Dorian said, eyes wide. Ethan allowed himself a small smile. That's the power of human ingenuity guiding AI. Machines can calculate and predict, but humans provide vision, creativity, and care. That's the difference. Word of the success spread throughout the colony. Residents were amazed at the improvements, particularly in previously struggling sectors. Small communities reported thriving crops, stable air quality, and more comfortable living conditions. Children played outside without masks, families tended their gardens, and the general atmosphere of the colony was transforming. Marla Vance watched the progress from Red Sky Tower, a rare smile on her face. She had been a strict leader, focused on efficiency and rules, but Ethan's work had taught her an invaluable lesson. Humanity itself, its creativity, determination, and compassion was the most powerful resource of all. She called a meeting with the board, displaying live feeds of Ethan's terraforming units and their effects. "These improvements are unprecedented," she said, "and the credit goes to one man, a former employee we once dismissed for tardiness. Let this remind us. Human ingenuity and dedication can surpass any protocol or system." The board members were silent, absorbing the magnitude of Ethan's achievement. One by one, they nodded in agreement, recognizing that the work done by a single determined human could reshape the future of an entire colony. Back in the lab, Ethan and his team celebrated small victories. Each day brought new optimizations, improved efficiency, and expanding green zones. Engineers suggested enhancements, and Ethan encouraged experimentation. He knew the true strength of humanity lay not just in a single mind but in collaboration, empathy, and shared vision. One evening, as the red Martian sky deepened into twilight, Ethan walked outside with Jamie. They stopped near a small park that had once been barren. Now, tiny plants sprouted along carefully arranged terraces, the air fresh and breathable. Children ran through the park, laughter ringing in the quiet Martian night. "Dad, this is amazing," Jamie said, eyes wide with wonder. "Did we really do this?" Ethan knelt down beside him. "We did, buddy. Every night, every little bit of work we did, it added up. All of this, it's proof of what humans can achieve when we care, when we work hard, and when we don't give up." Jamie hugged him tightly. "I'm proud of you, Dad." Ethan felt a swell of emotion. It wasn't the recognition from Red Sky or the applause from the boardroom that mattered. It was knowing that his efforts were making life better for real people. Humanity's resilience, creativity, and compassion were shaping the world. The following week saw the project expand further. AI terraforming units were deployed to more distant sectors, including harsh, previously uninhabitable regions. Each successful deployment brought new challenges: dust storms, temperature fluctuations, and mechanical issues. Yet, Ethan's guidance and human intuition allowed the team to solve problems in ways no algorithm alone could. Colonists began to notice the transformation on a larger scale. The outer sectors, once desolate and lifeless, now supported small communities of plants, crops, and breathable zones. Families thrived, children played, and life on Mars felt more sustainable. Ethan often returned home late at night, exhausted but exhilarated. He would quietly check on Jamie, who was always eager to hear about the progress of the terraforming units. Together, they would look at holographic projections, imagining how far their work could reach. One evening, Marla visited Ethan in his lab, standing among the hum of machines and glowing holoscreens. She observed the controlled chaos with admiration. "You've changed the colony," she said softly. "Not just the environment, but the way we see human potential. We focused so much on rules and efficiency, but you've reminded us of something more important: humanity itself." Ethan looked up, tired but smiling. Sometimes it takes one person willing to do the work, even in secret, to show what humans are capable of. Machines are tools, but people create the future. Marla nodded, a rare warmth in her expression. "You've reminded me that leadership isn't just about control or schedules. It's about understanding, trust, and valuing human potential. I underestimated you, Ethan. You've changed my perspective, and maybe even the future of Red Sky." Ethan returned to his workstations, continuing to optimize AI units. Each success felt like a small victory for humanity. Every plant that grew, every sector stabilized, and every child playing in fresh air reinforced the truth. Human resilience, creativity, and compassion could shape worlds. Months later, the colony's data confirmed a dramatic improvement in living conditions. Oxygen levels were stable across all sectors, energy consumption was reduced, and agricultural yields had increased significantly. Ethan's vision had become a reality. In a ceremony organized by the Colony Council, Ethan was publicly acknowledged. Residents cheered as he explained his project in simple terms, emphasizing the importance of human ingenuity, collaboration, and dedication. He spoke not of personal accolades, but of humanity's ability to rise above limitations, adapt, and create a better future. Jamie stood proudly beside him, clapping enthusiastically. "That's my dad," he shouted, drawing smiles from the crowd. Ethan knelt, hugging his son. "We did this together, buddy, every step of the way." Later that night, as Ethan watched the red Martian sky, he reflected on the journey. He had been dismissed for tardiness, judged by rigid rules. And yet, he had transformed the colony, not through luck, not through wealth or authority, but through human qualities machines could never replicate: perseverance, creativity, and care. Mars stretched endlessly before him, a canvas of red dust and growing green zones. Humanity had taken another step toward thriving beyond Earth, not just through technology, but through the spirit of the people behind it. Ethan whispered softly to the night sky. "This is just the beginning, Jamie. One day, humans will reach even farther, and we'll take this spirit with us." Jamie, asleep nearby, murmured in his sleep, "I can't wait, Dad." And as the stars twinkled faintly over the red plains, Ethan Harper smiled. Humanity had triumphed not through perfection, not through strict rules, but through the heart, ingenuity, and perseverance of a single man, and the people who believed in him. The future was bright, and it was human.